Hey guys, it's Aggie, welcome back. Today we're gonna chat about something that is so typical of the 20s, but can also occur at different stages of life. I'm just talking about this because I feel like I have had several conversations in a short period of time very recently with a number of people who are in their 20s, specifically their mid-20s, and are just kind of going through this like funk. A lot of people go through it, a lot of people talk about it, but I mean, I feel like we just need to dig right into like what's going on, like get to the good stuff. So I have a few insights. We all know, like we've heard this phrase, we've like experienced it, I think, to certain extents. And basically what I like to call it is something's missing syndrome. So this is a really interesting thing that can happen. All of a sudden, it doesn't start out as like this huge dramatic thing. Like at first you're like, okay, like, you know, you're content, whatever. You're living your day-to-day life, you kind of know what's expected, and it's usually when you hit that routine. You settle into a routine and then all of a sudden, little bit of like dissatisfaction creeps in. At first you're like, oh, this is, you know, like this is fine, I'm content. And then it turns into, meh, it's my life, it's day to day, you know, like nothing special. Nothing super exciting happening every day that's making me jump out of my bed and just like be super excited to start my day. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, something's going on here. Like I feel like I'm in a funk and I feel like I have to sit with it, but it's like really uncomfortable and it's not like anything's actually wrong. So I'm not really sure how to word it. I'm not sure what it is. I just feel like that's it. Something's missing. So it can start off as something's missing, and then it can devolve into, okay, like let's reassess my life. Like let's really figure out what's going on here. So then you're kind of like incomplete. So you feel like you actively need to complete your life. And then it turns into, oh, I am unhappy. Like this does not look like what I had envisioned for myself when I thought about my dream life. So then it can quickly devolve into these stages. First like stage is really common. I feel like that's the dark side of the 20s. There's like a lot of fun stuff happening. There's a lot of figuring out happening, change, transformation, all that great stuff. But that's kind of like the dark undercurrent that spreads throughout your 20s. You just kind of are unsure, like at each step of the way, you feel like you should be somewhere you're not yet, or you feel like you still have so much to figure out. So, I mean, part of the solution is to take the pressure off of yourself, but the part I want to talk about today is how we can sort of charge at it head first and really get to the root of the problem so that you don't feel that way anymore and that you can make more informed decisions going forward, big or small. I have 3 things that may help you kind of frame the problem. Obviously, they're not solutions to everyone's issues. I think it's pretty impossible to think about like a panacea of solutions. Like there's no way one thing is going to fix all of your problems, especially for something as ambiguous as this. But before I get into the 3 different ways to think about it, I'm gonna share something from a really great philosophy class that I took. So in college, I had this really great professor and he was teaching us about Aristotle. So the thing about Aristotle you have to remember is that he calls everything a good. Interesting in and of itself, perhaps another video. So he calls everything a good. He says that, more importantly, unhappiness is the result of expecting too much or the wrong thing from a good. I'll say it again. According to Aristotle, unhappiness is caused by expecting too much or the wrong thing from a good. So that's really interesting. Based on Aristotle, from that one tidbit of his whole like body of work, body of philosophy, he would say, if you're unhappy, then you the problem. Nothing else. You're the problem. The way you're thinking about it is the problem, and therefore, more encouragingly, it's the solution. So if we take what Aristotle says, then we can kind of figure out, hey, maybe unhappiness isn't the enemy. That's one way of looking at it. So if we picture, like I like to picture life like a big highway, life is a highway. All these song references today, who knew? If you think about life as this big highway and you're just driving along it, hitting the stops, you're following your map, And all of a sudden you come across this place and you're like kind of stuck there, kind of not. You're definitely not where you're supposed to be yet. And then it's this big sign and it says, you are at destination unhappiness. So it doesn't have to stay your destination, but that's kind of the place that you ended up. If we think about it that way, unhappiness is just a big signpost. It's simply pointing out you are here on this map. You are here. If you don't like this place, feel free, please drive the other way. Drive toward perhaps happiness, joy, fulfillment. Those are much more popular touristy destinations. It's simply saying, this is where you are. This is the road sign. Now, take it or leave it. First of all, be gentle with yourself. Just say, okay, I ended up here. It's just a case of misnavigation or misdirection. When you miss an exit on a highway, are you like, oh my God, this is permanent, this is the end? No, like you don't freak out that much. You realize that when you keep driving, you'll go to the next exit. You'll eventually end up where you need to go because all roads are connected. So similarly, if you've hit a point in your life where you feel like there's something missing or not everything's quite there, it's not like this full thing, this full picture that you're trying to create, just tell yourself, okay, this is where I am. Fully accept it. Fully accept it. Now, what went wrong? So this is the part where I think my 3 tips, based on my experience and based on conversations I've had with other people who experienced it, can really help you. I've realized that whatever is missing, of course this is a very general thing and everyone's situation is different. More likely than not, I think the thing that's missing that you're looking for, because it can be really hard just to point to the specific, it can be boiled down to 3 things. Number 1, lack of authenticity to self. So these are pretty straightforward. So lack of authenticity to self. What does that mean? Maybe it means that for whatever reason, probably good reasons, you don't exactly have the time, the resources, whatever it is, the opportunities to make your life resemble what you had envisioned for yourself. So maybe you're working at a job that you know isn't your calling. You know it's a stepping stone to a bigger goal, but you're starting to really like get dragged down in the day-to-day, and you kind of are starting to lose sight of that goal. You're starting to doubt whether you can really get there. Other than that, maybe you're just really busy. Like busyness is a big factor. When you're really, really busy, at some point or another, this feeling's gonna settle in because all of your time is being consumed. That's what being busy is. And if you're lucky, then you're busy with things that you love, in which case you're energized. You're not feeling like anything's missing, but maybe more time, which is fine. You can figure out how to create more time in your day. But if you're busy and you're miserable at it, then more likely than not, you are probably busy because you have committed to things that perhaps aren't bringing you joy. So how do you fix that? I think it's important to give yourself credit for realizing that this is a stepping stone. You just have to figure out how to zoom out again and ask yourself, is this really where I want to be going? Figure out what is priority. Ask yourself, what is it out of this big slew of dreams that you have? What is one thing that is attainable now? Like, what change can you make to immediately get back into it? Or start designing a life that is a lot more authentic to you, whether that means picking up a new hobby or getting back into that old one that you always loved but didn't have time for. Maybe it means surrounding yourself with opportunities that will help you become more of that person you want to be. Number 2, dwindled connection to others. So this one is also pretty self-explanatory. I mean, loneliness is like a big thing, right? So it can be pretty much confused with this something's missing feeling, and a lot of the time it's, you know, people are missing. And you just haven't had time to meet up and to kind of ritualize hanging out with your group of friends the way that you wanted to or the way that you have in the past. It's okay. People get busy, it happens, it's part of adulting, and I think as long as you're making intentional efforts to reach out or to create opportunities for people to get together, I feel like it's gonna be successful at least some of the time, and then, you know, it's just a matter of reconnecting. Maybe you've moved to like a new place. well, then you don't have the social circle that you used to have. You can start small. Maybe it's making new friends. Maybe it's joining a club. Meeting people around similar interests is always a lot easier. Maybe the something's missing is a relationship, in which case, you know, you can figure out what you want in dating. I think step 2 to loneliness is always figuring out what you're actually looking for instead of like not to feel lonely anymore. Anyway, that's another topic. Be intentionally out there, go get them. You know, there are plenty of dating apps nowadays. A lot of people are meeting quality matches. Go and put yourself out there. 3 is inadequacy of some experience. So this one is a little bit trickier because any experience, any inadequacy can pretty much fall into this category. But this could mean you need to spice up your life in general. Maybe take that vacation you always wanted to take with your friends. Or maybe it means you're not being challenged enough at work. Whatever it may be, I think after you figure out, okay, category number 3, inadequacy of experience. What experience is it that I need to be more fulfilled in? And if it's multiple, the answer, it turns out, is multiple different experiences or facets of your life. At least you can tackle them one by one, and you know that it's not just you and you're just feeling bad. At least you have a name for it. At least you know, okay, I'm not being challenged at work. Maybe I can look for more opportunities, or maybe I need to switch jobs. Maybe the challenge is too great at work. Even in your personal life, maybe you wanted to grow in certain ways and you feel like you haven't in the way you wanted to. Okay, inadequacy in the growth department. Okay, what can I do starting today to really push myself? Can I read more? Can I join different groups? Can I just be a little more disciplined with my time? Once you figure out which category it is that you're like overall icky, something's missing feeling can fall into, then it's a lot easier to figure out solutions. Sometimes coming up with the practical, concrete answer is much tougher than figuring out how do I want to feel. So after you figure out which of these 3 categories your something's missing feeling falls into, the next thing would be to ask yourself, how do I want to feel? Do I want to feel more connected? Do I want to feel just generally more like lively or more challenged, or do something interesting and new? And once you figure out how you want to feel, it can lead to just a small change in your life that brings you a lot more fulfillment, or it could be the motivating force to make a bigger decision, to maybe like change a bigger part of your life, whether it's career related, personal, what you do with your time, location, where you want to go, where you want to move. It can start this chain reaction that I think can bring you a lot more happiness. And in my experience, asking these questions and actively trying to answer them in this way has helped me more than just kind of like sitting in the wallow. I've spoken to a couple of different friends, and when I told them this kind of approach, they really appreciated it. So I thought maybe you guys would like it too. Let me know if it was helpful. If we compare life to like a great, like wonderful dish, like you're in the kitchen cooking and that's like life, then it's not about making your dish look like everyone else's or putting the most expensive stuff in that dish. It's about knowing what your unique dish is and then putting in the right amounts of the right ingredients in there. It turns into something that's unique and authentic to you, and it smells great, looks great, and you know, it doesn't look quite like anybody else's, and I mean, ultimately you're satisfied with it, which is the biggest takeaway. So anyways, I hope this was helpful and I hope you got something out of it. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about this topic, or if you have any advice that you'd like to share. Really appreciate you guys watching. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe if you feel like it, and stay tuned for the next one. Stay golden, guys.